It was a bright Saturday morning at a fancy golf club in Georgia. The grass was freshly cut, the sun was shining, and a cool breeze made the day perfect for a golf game. Charles Whitman, a rich white man in his 50s, walked onto the green in his usual confident way. He wore expensive sunglasses, a brand new polo shirt, and carried the latest golf clubs. Everyone at the club knew Charles. He talked loud, played rough, and believed he was one of the best golfers around. He had a habit of laughing at others and thought of himself as better than most people who walked into the club. That morning, Charles had planned to play with a few of his friends. As they joked and laughed near the first hole, they noticed a new face approaching. It was a black woman, around 30 years old, dressed in a simple white golf shirt and plain black pants. She carried her own clubs, not flashy or new, but clean and well-maintained. Her name was Dr. Lena Hayes, but no one at the club knew that. Yet, she had recently been invited to the club through a special membership for visiting professionals. She walked with quiet confidence and a kind smile, but didn't say much. Charles saw her and immediately made a joke. Look at that. Didn't know today was bring your assistant to the course day. His friends laughed loudly, thinking he was funny. Lena didn't react. She simply nodded and placed her bag down near the tee box. Charles looked at her again and added, "You. Sure, you're in the right place? This isn't the driving range." Lena turned to him and replied softly, "Yes, I'm sure. I believe I'm scheduled to play in your group today." Charles blinked in surprise. "In our group? Huh, well, I hope you don't slow us down. We've got a rhythm." One of the other golfers, a younger man named James, gave her an encouraging smile. "Let's have a good game," he said politely. The starter confirmed Lena's name on the list. She was indeed part of Charles's group. With a slight shrug, Charles waved toward the first hole. "Ladies first," he said with a smirk, thinking he was being generous. Lena stepped up calmly. She took a moment to breathe, adjusted her stance, and took her shot. The ball flew clean and straight, landing just short of the green. It was a beautiful swing, smooth, balanced, and professional. A few people nearby stopped to watch. James raised his eyebrows. "Nice shot." Charles let out a fake laugh. "Beginner's luck," he said, and he stepped up, swung hard, and sliced his ball into the rough. His smile faded for a second, but he quickly recovered. "Must be the wind," the game continued. Hole after hole, Lena played with calm focus. Her shots were clean and measured. She didn't try to show off, she didn't speak much, she simply played. Charles, on the other hand, started trying. Harder, he swung with more power, but his shots began missing their mark. Sometimes they landed in the sand, sometimes in the trees. His frustration started to show, even though he kept laughing and pretending he was just having fun. By the fourth hole, it was clear Lena was playing better than Charles. She had already scored 2 pars and 1 birdie. Charles had double bogeyed twice and wasn't happy. "I hope you're enjoying this," he muttered under his breath after one of her perfect putts. Lena turned to him and said kindly, "I'm just enjoying the game." More people at the club started to take notice. It wasn't every day someone new, especially a quiet black woman, outplayed Charles Whitman. A few members stood near the edge of the course, whispering and watching. One older man nudged his friend and asked, "Do you know who she is?" "No idea," his friend replied, "but she's got a good swing." Charles tried to keep the spotlight on himself. "Remember when I played at the state championship?" he said loudly between shots. "Pressure was high, but I handled it like a pro." Lena didn't respond. She just lined up her next swing and hit the ball straight down the fairway. Her form was perfect. It was obvious she wasn't new to golf. Still, she never bragged. She didn't roll her eyes at Charles or respond to his little comments. She stayed in her own zone. During a short break between holes, James asked her quietly, "You play often?" "I used to," she replied with a smile. "It's been a while." There was something about her that felt different. She had a peaceful way of moving. Wasn't trying to win or show off. She just loved the game. Charles couldn't stand being outplayed. He started swinging faster, rushing his moves. His friends noticed his mood changing. He stopped joking and began walking ahead without waiting. But Lena didn't change. She kept her rhythm. By the end of the 9th hole, Charles had fallen far. Behind, Lena was leading. The scoreboard didn't lie. James clapped lightly and said, "That's one of the best front nines I've seen in a long time." "Thanks," she said. "I just try to stay focused." Charles, red in the face, shook his head. "Well, maybe I'm just warming up." Lena gave a small smile. "That's okay. We're all here to enjoy the game." But for Charles, it wasn't just about enjoying the game. He was used to winning, used to being the center of attention. Seeing someone like Lena, someone he had judged the moment she arrived, play better than him was not something he could easily accept. As they walked toward the back nine, a few members of the club began whispering more seriously. "I think I've heard of her," one said. "Isn't she some kind of professor? Or maybe an old college golf star?" The air started to change. People began watching more closely, wondering who she really was. Lena didn't know people were starting to recognize her. She just kept playing, calm and focused, with her eyes on the ball and her heart steady. What began as a regular golf game was slowly becoming something else. It wasn't just about scorecards anymore. It was about pride, respect, and the quiet power of someone who didn't need to shout to prove her worth. Lena was just getting started, and Charles had no idea what was coming next. "Would you like me to continue with part 2 in the same style?" The back nine began with quiet tension. The air was still pleasant, but the mood had changed. Charles Whitman was no longer joking as much. His face was tight, his movements stiff. He looked over at Dr. Lena Hayes now with a mix of confusion and disbelief. She hadn't said much the entire time, but her golf did all the talking. Lena walked calmly to the 10th hole, adjusted her glove, and placed her ball on the tee. She looked at the flag in the distance, took a deep breath, and swung. The ball flew high and straight, landing beautifully on the fairway. It was clean, controlled, and nearly perfect. Charles looked at her swing with narrowed eyes. He didn't speak. He stepped up next and hit his shot, but it veered left into a patch of short trees. He muttered something under his breath and didn't look at anyone as he walked after his ball. James, who had been part of their group from the start, was beginning to smile more as he watched Lena. He was young, in his early 30s, and had always loved watching skilled players. "That was a great shot," he said genuinely. Lena nodded and smiled. "Thank you." Other golfers from the club were now quietly following the group from a distance. A few had started whispering about Lena's skills, and a name had been mentioned: Dr. Hayes. Some recalled hearing that she had once coached college golf. Others whispered that she worked in science. No one was completely sure, but everyone could tell she was special. At the next hole, Charles tried again to take control. He gave advice loudly, even though no one asked. "You'll want to use a 7-iron here," he said, pretending to be helpful. Lena didn't reply. She calmly chose her own club and played her shot. Another smooth swing, another solid result. She didn't need advice. Charles's shot landed in a bunker again. He cursed under his breath, then quickly looked around to see if anyone noticed. He was losing his edge, and he knew it. As they walked toward the green, a club employee approached quietly. "Excuse me, Dr. Hayes," he asked politely. Lena turned with surprise. "Yes. I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to have you at the club. Some of us read about your work a few months ago. You're quite an inspiration." Charles raised his eyebrows. "Work?" The employee nodded. "Yes. Her research in space engineering made it to a national science magazine, and she coached at Morehouse College for 2 years, their women's golf team." Lena gave a soft smile. "That was a while ago, thank you." Charles looked stunned. "You're a scientist?" "Yes," Lena said calmly. "I work in physics and engineering. Golf is just something I enjoy on the weekends." For a moment, there was complete silence. Even James looked amazed. "Wait, NASA?" he asked. "I've consulted with NASA before." "Yes," she replied. "It's mostly on satellite motion and aerodynamics." Charles blinked, trying to make sense of it. "And you play golf like this too?" "I grew up playing," she said. "My father taught me. He used to caddy at local clubs when he was young. I played in college and did some coaching, but I left it to focus on research." Charles didn't know what to say. Suddenly, all his earlier jokes seemed foolish. He had laughed at her, mocked her, and now he was realizing that the person he had made fun of was someone far more accomplished than he ever imagined. As they continued the game, Lena kept playing as if nothing had changed. But everything had. People were now watching with admiration. Each time she made a shot, soft applause could be heard from nearby paths. Her swings were not only accurate, but looked like they came from years of mastery. She didn't talk much. About herself, she didn't need to. Her game said everything. Charles's frustration grew. He started blaming the clubs, the grass, even the sun. Must be the angle of the light, he muttered after another poor shot. Can't even see straight. James shook his head slightly, but said nothing. He admired Lena's calmness. Didn't correct Charles. She didn't point out his errors. She just kept playing quietly and beautifully. On the 12th hole, Lena made an impressive long putt from over 20 feet away. It dropped into the hole cleanly. Small crowd watching. Clapped again. Charles, now sweating and red in the face, missed his own short putt and groaned. James leaned over to her and asked, "Do you miss coaching?" Sometimes she replied, "But I enjoy teaching in the classroom too. It's a different kind of challenge." "Do your students know you play golf like this?" he asked with a laugh. "Some do," she said. "But I never bring it up. Most people don't ask." By the 14th hole, the club president himself had walked over to watch. He had heard the whispers and wanted to see for himself. He nodded. With a smile as he saw Lena's smooth drive cut through the wind, Charles finally spoke again. "I want to regain." Lena looked over and simply said, "Most people don't." It wasn't said with anger. It was just the truth. Charles gave a slow nod. "Well, you're full of surprises." Lena smiled politely and moved ahead. The 16th hole had a tricky layout with a water hazard. Charles hit his shot and watched, in horror as the ball splashed into the pond. "Unbelievable," he said angrily. Lena stepped up, paused, and took her swing. The ball flew high and cleared the water perfectly. It landed softly on the green dot. The small crowd behind them clapped. Again, louder this time. People were no longer just watching, they were cheering. Not just for a good golfer, but for someone who had handled rudeness with grace and was now shining in full view. By the time they reached the 18th hole, the difference was clear. Lena had played a brilliant round. Charles had struggled. Through nearly every hole, his friends had stopped laughing and now walked quietly behind him. After the final putt, James turned to Lena and said, "That was incredible." "Thank you," she replied. Charles stood nearby, quiet for a long moment. Then he took off his cap and walked over. "Dr. Hayes, I owe you an apology. I treated you badly when you arrived."
Lena looked at him. "You didn't know me,"
she said gently, "but now you do." He nodded slowly. "Yes, now I do, and I'll remember it." With that, she packed up her clubs, nodded politely, and walked off the green. The crowd parted respectfully as she passed, and a young girl in a pink golf cap looked up at her with wide eyes. "Can I be like you one day?" the girl asked. Lena smiled warmly. "Of course you can." That simple moment, quiet and powerful, stayed with everyone long after she left the course. Shall I continue with part 3 now in the same style? The news about Lena's performance on the golf course started spreading across the club quickly. What began as a quiet weekend game was now being talked about in the locker rooms, in the lounge, and even among the kitchen staff. People kept asking, "Who is that black woman who outplayed Charles?" A few members who had watched the game firsthand shared the same answer. "It's Dr. Lena Hayes. She's a scientist and a golf coach. She's something else. Back on the course, Lena was calmly gathering her clubs after finishing the game. She didn't act proud or show off. To her, it had just been a good game, nothing more. But the people watching felt differently. They had seen something rare, a mix of talent, discipline, and quiet dignity. Charles, meanwhile, was struggling with his emotions. His pride had taken a hit. He sat quietly on a bench near the clubhouse, sipping water and wiping his forehead with a towel. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't the center of attention at the club, and it bothered him. Not because Lena had won, but because he realized how badly he had judged her. He had mocked her at first, thinking she didn't belong. Now, he couldn't stop thinking about how wrong he had been. A few of his friends tried to cheer him up. "She's probably a professional or something," one said. "You didn't lose to just anyone." But Charles shook his head. "It's not about that. I treated her like a joke before even knowing her name." Inside the clubhouse, Lena had just finished washing her hands when a woman approached her. She was one of the senior members at the club, dressed in a classy golf dress and pearls. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Are you Dr. Hayes?" Lena replied with a smile, "I just wanted to say." That was a joy to watch. "You were graceful, focused, and powerful. You reminded us what golf is really about. Thank you." "That means a lot," Lena said sincerely. The woman leaned in slightly. We could use more people like you here, people who play. "With heart and class? I'm just a visitor," Lena replied. "But thank you for making me feel welcome." As Lena stepped outside, she saw a small group of young golfers standing near the fence that lined the practice area. One of them, a teenage black girl with braids, waved shyly at her. Lena walked over with a warm smile. "You were amazing out there," the girl said. "I didn't know someone like me could be that good." Lena's heart softened. She knelt down slightly to meet the girl's eyes. "You can be even better," she said. "You just have to believe in yourself, work hard, and don't let anyone's words stop you." The girl nodded. "Do you teach?" "I teach science now. But I still help people with their swing sometimes," Lena said. She handed the girl a small card. "If you ever need advice, tell your parents to message me." Behind them, a few of the older members had gathered near the clubhouse patio, watching Lena with new respect. One of them whispered, "She didn't even brag. That's the kind of class you don't see much anymore." At the same time, Charles finally stood up and made his way toward Lena. His steps were slower than usual, not because he was tired, but because he felt unsure of what to say. Lena noticed him coming and waited. He stopped in front of her, took off his cap, and held it in his hands. "Dr. Hayes," he began, "I wanted to say something important." She looked at him, giving him her full attention. "I judged you," he said, "before you even took a swing. I made jokes, I looked down on you, and I acted like you didn't belong here. And then I saw the truth. You're not only a better golfer than me, you're a better person. I'm sorry." Lena nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying that," Charles continued. "You taught me something today, not just about golf. About being humble, about giving people a chance." Lena smiled. "Sometimes the game teaches us more than just how to win." They stood quietly for a moment, with the sounds of birds in the trees and the wind moving gently through the course. "Would you ever come back here again?" Charles asked. "I mean, to play, if I'm invited?" "Sure," Lena replied. "But I don't need to play to feel welcome. That comes from how people treat each other." He nodded. "Then I'll make sure next time people treat you the way you deserve." Lena thanked him, then turned to leave. As she walked away, she passed several people who nodded respectfully. Some even clapped softly. Later that evening, the club posted a photo on their social media page. It showed Lena midswing on the 15th hole, her form perfect, her eyes focused. The caption read, "Talent, grace, respect. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for reminding us of the beauty of the game." The photo went viral among local golf communities. People began sharing it with the caption, "Never judge a book by its cover." In the days that followed, Lena received several emails and messages. Young girls, especially from underrepresented backgrounds, wrote to her saying she had inspired them. Some wanted to play golf. Some wanted to study science. Some just wanted to say thank you for showing them that it's okay to be smart, strong, and quiet all at once. One message stood out. It was from a boy named Malik, aged 12. He wrote, "Hi, Dr. Hayes. I saw you play on the golf course. My uncle told me what happened. I want to be like you, not just good at golf, but kind and smart. Thank you for showing us what real power looks like." Lena read it and smiled. She didn't play that day to prove anything. She didn't expect applause or praise. She just loved the game. But sometimes just by showing up and being true to who you are, you end up changing how people see the world. Would you like me to continue with part 4 in the same style? The excitement from the golf game kept growing at the club. People talked about Dr. Lena Hayes everywhere, in the locker rooms, the cafe, and even during golf lessons. It was unusual for someone new to make such a strong impression, especially someone who had stayed so quiet and humble through it all. Lena's calm and steady way of playing had won over many hearts, but it was her kindness and grace that truly stood out. She had never shown anger or arrogance, even when Charles had mocked her at the start. Instead, she had simply played her best, letting her skill and character shine. Charles, on the other hand, was still learning how to handle the moment. The usual loud, confident man had been replaced by someone quieter and thoughtful. He was no longer the center of attention, and that was a new feeling. But he didn't want to lose respect at the club or in his own eyes. The club manager invited Lena to a small gathering with a few members and the board of directors. They wanted to officially welcome her and hear more about her story. Lena was surprised but agreed. At the meeting, she shared a little about her past. She talked about growing up in a small town, how her father taught her golf, and how she had balanced her love for sports with her passion for science. She explained how she had studied hard, earned a PhD in physics, and worked with organizations like NASA, but she also admitted that she had missed the golf course. "Golf has always been a part of my life," she said quietly. "It teaches patience, focus, and respect, not just for the game, but for others. I'm grateful to be here, playing again." The members listened carefully, impressed by her story and humility. The club president stood and said, "Dr. Hayes, your presence here is a blessing. We would be honored if you would consider joining our club as a full member." Lena smiled. "Thank you. I would be happy to." A word of this welcome spread quickly. Many people who had doubted or overlooked Lena before now wanted to know her better. The younger black golfers at the club felt encouraged and proud. They saw in Lena a role model, someone who broke barriers with quiet strength. Charles began to change, too. He asked Lena if she would be willing to teach a clinic for new members. "I want to learn from you," he admitted. "Not just about golf, but about respect." Lena agreed, happy to share what she knew. It was a success. People of all ages and backgrounds attended. They learned not only about golf techniques, but also about kindness, patience, and humility. As the weeks passed, the club felt different. The mood was warmer, the community was closer, and Lena was at the heart of it. One day, as she walked the course, a reporter from a local newspaper approached her. "We'd like to write a story about you," he said. "Your journey, your success on the course, and how you're changing the club." Lena hesitated. She wasn't used to the spotlight. But she agreed, hoping her story could inspire others. The article was published with the headline, "From Science Labs to Golf Greens, the story of Dr. Lena Hayes, the hidden genius who changed a club and its heart." In the article, Lena spoke about her love for science, passion for golf, and the challenges she had faced as a black woman in mostly white spaces. She talked about how she wanted to show young people that they could be strong, smart, and graceful all at once. The article moved many readers, was shared on social media, picked up by local TV stations, and sparked conversations about inclusion and respect in sports and science. Meanwhile, Charles was learning every day. He listened to Lena's lessons, not only about golf, but about humility and understanding. He apologized to people he had spoken poorly about before and became a quieter, kinder man. One afternoon, as Lena and Charles practiced together, she said, "The game isn't just about winning, It's about growing. Charles nodded. You've helped me grow more than you know. Lena smiled. And you've reminded me that everyone deserves a chance to learn. Outside the club, Lena's story inspired others too. Young black golfers signed up for lessons. Schools invited her too. Speak about science and sports. Parents thanked her for being a role model their children could look up to. The golf course, once a place where judgments were made quickly, became a place of respect and opportunity. And through it all, Lena stayed humble. She still played for the love of the game, not for fame or applause. But the quiet genius had made a loud impact, one that would be remembered for years. Would you like me to continue with part 5 in the same style? Weeks turned into months, and the story of Dr. Lena Hayes spread beyond the golf club and into the community. What had started as a quiet game became a powerful lesson about respect, talent, and the strength that comes from being true to yourself. Lena continued to visit the golf club regularly. She was no longer just a visitor. She had become a respected member and an inspiration. People from all backgrounds came to see her play, to learn from her, and to hear her story. One afternoon, a group of young golfers gathered around her at the practice range. Among them was a little girl named Maya. She was 7 years old, her eyes wide with excitement. Dr. Hayes, Maya said shyly, I want to be just like you when I grow up. Lena smiled and knelt down to Maya's level. Can be better than me, she said softly. All you have to do is believe in yourself and keep practicing. Maya nodded eagerly. I will. I promise. It was moments like this that reminded Lena why she loved golf and teaching so much. It wasn't just about the game, it was about inspiring the next generation. Meanwhile, Charles Whitman had changed a lot since that first day on the course. He was more humble, kinder, and more thoughtful. He even started volunteering to help with youth golf programs at the club. He understood now that golf was more than just a game or a way to show off. It was a chance to bring people together. One evening, the club held a special event to honor Lena's impact. The clubhouse was filled with members, local leaders, and young players. The president of the club stood up and said, Dr. Hayes has reminded us what true greatness looks like. Not loud words or empty pride, but quiet strength, hard work, and respect. Lena listened quietly as people shared their stories about how she had inspired them. Many spoke about how she had shown that no matter who you are or where you come from, you can succeed with dignity and grace. At the end of the event, Charles came forward. He smiled and said, Lena, thank you for teaching me and all of us. You changed this club for the better. I'm proud to call you my friend. Lena shook his hand warmly. Thank you, Charles. I'm proud of how far you've come, too. Outside the club, Lena's story became a symbol of hope. Local schools invited her to speak about overcoming challenges and following dreams. She spoke to students about the importance of education, hard work, and kindness. Her example showed young people, especially girls and children of color, that they could break barriers and shine in fields like sports and science. One day, Lena received a letter from a young man named Malik. He wrote about how her story had given him the courage to keep trying in school and never give up, even when things were hard. You showed me that I can be strong and smart, he wrote. Lena read the letter with tears in her eyes. She kept it on her desk as a reminder of why she kept going. The golf course had changed too. It became more welcoming and diverse. People of all backgrounds felt they belonged. And at the center of that change was Lena, the hidden genius who had stepped onto the course quietly, but left a lasting mark. Through it all, Lena stayed humble. She never sought attention or fame. She played golf because she loved it and shared her knowledge because she wanted others to have the same chances she did. Her story was not just about winning a game. It was about breaking down walls, changing minds, and showing that respect and kindness are the true measures of greatness. And that legacy, more than any trophy or score, was the greatest victory of all. Would you like me to help you with anything else?